Hey, thanks for checking out this special video recording time. It's not even a message, but as part of the House LA, we had Chris Palmer in this weekend and had a fantastic time. Loved having him with our community. Lots of laughs, lots of great times. And I wanted to have just a special time here for you to talk about your work of making not only the Bible, but theology palatable for people. Because for some people, theology, even the word itself, it's like, it may as well be, it's kind of like showing up at one of those fancy dinners where you're like, I'm not sure where to put my hands.
Yeah.
Which fork do I use?
What do you do?
Which commentary do I use first? Like, how do I address people?
Yeah.
So tell me about your work, Chris, with making theology palatable, understandable, and accessible.
Yeah, so schools today understand that people feel this way about schools and about seminary. The seminary, for not the most part, but in a lot of ways, has become irrelevant because it's not training people for practical ministry. And maybe 20 years ago that was the case. Schools have gradually come over to understand that unless we can bring together the university and the church, that it's a dead enterprise. And so they're looking to do that. What we've done at Theos University and Theos Seminary is we're not just, I think we've gone a step further. I think that's a step in the right direction for seminaries to say, hey, you know what? We probably should equip pastors and leaders to actually be the successful next pastors. But I think the general feeling about seminaries and universities is that in doing that, they're still 10, 15 years behind where the culture is actually at. Yeah. So the culture is here, and seminaries are right here. So they're doing like what was cool in the 90s.
Hello, fellow kids. it's like a meme.
Hello, fellow kids. They got like, they're wearing something cool.
With Steve Buscemi, with the skateboard. It's like,
exactly.
Oh gosh.
And they're not necessarily sure about what like cringe means, what could come off as cringe, what people are able, what's palatable, what's not palatable. And I think anything that shows, especially in the online spaces, as an attempt is often seen as performativity, and performativity, especially online today, oftentimes can be loathed, like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So I think where Theos comes into play and what makes Theos, hopefully, in people's minds, I can't assume this about everybody, and the people that like us, maybe relevant is the fact that we like to think that we're moving with what's taking place in the online spaces. Understanding, not just looking at memes as something that's immature, or podcasts as something that's immature, or the types of discussions that take place as immature and stupid, but these are forms that people learn. And short form content really has changed the game. People are learning in microbursts. They're learning in 1-minute videos. They're learning in 2-minute videos, 30 seconds here, 30 seconds there, a sound clip here and there. And instead of resenting all of that, how can you use this to drive people and make them have an actual learning experience? And so we've innovated. I think at Theos University, we've done the best that we can to try to give people an experience in the online spaces with just short micro bursts of content. And then behind that, we have all types of classes and seminaries. Perhaps one of the biggest things that people don't go to seminary with, there's several reasons. Number one is price.
Yeah, so expensive.
Yeah, $400, $460 a credit, when most people that go to seminary are already involved in ministry. Yeah. They have found themselves in ministry.
They're not making $460 a month. So it's like, it's some youth pastor that wants to serve the Lord that's making, 10, 20 grand a year or something like that. And now we go, hey, by the way, this class is going to cost your annual salary.
Precisely. Yeah, the price is astronomical. And I think one of the reasons that universities do that is because they have such huge overhead, so they got to keep the price of the credit high. And then there's a time component. Mothers that want to go to seminary, busy fathers that want to go to seminary, they got kids, they got jobs, they can't stop their life. Then there's strict semester guidelines. You have due dates that you just can't make because you're busy traveling. And then, of course, you have practical ministry. Is it preparing me for something that I'm actually going to be able to put my hands to? And then you have like the whole culture thing that I'm talking about just a minute ago. So you take all that, seminary just becomes, we're not doing this at all.
Yeah, it's almost like we're answering questions that no one's asking anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a system that often feels really antiquated. So you guys, there's a whole crew of you guys that have done this, and it has exploded.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was like one of those, it was like Joseph in Egypt type moments where it's like 7 years of plenty.
Yeah.
Like you guys, I mean, it just exploded.
Yeah.
Almost not, I don't want to say out of nowhere, because I don't think other than creation that the rest of us are, we're not
ex nihilo.
Yeah, it's like we have our backstories, right?
It was the universe of Theos, ex nihilo.
Yeah, it's like it just God spoke. How did this come? Like, what's the backstory?
So Nathan and Gabriel and their brother-in-law Brian Voss, they started the company. I came around maybe a year and a half after they started it, and then we began to grow. They were growing, and then I think by the time I came, my story in all this is that I met them. They had maybe 50 videos online. I remember we were in a meeting one time, and we decided this needs to be the Barstool Sports of theology.
Oh my gosh!
That was the actual conversation we had. That this needs to be
Are
Barstool
you doing
Sports.
pizza reviews?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, but we felt that Barstool's model was genius because they were irreverent, and there's something about irreverence that can be, if it's done right, it can be convicting. And a one way, well, I'll get to that in a second. And then the way that their model was is they had like a brain, and then they had influencers that were feeding into that brain.
Yeah.
So we felt like, let's harness the power of each other's influence and speak the same party line that comes back to Theos University.
Yeah.
So different various influencers that's like, well, who are you part of? We wanted them to see as Theos as their tribe.
Yeah.
And so we found influencers that shared the same values that we shared, shared the same theology that we shared. Not in the sense of strict. I mean, we have some Calvinists, we have some Reformed, we have various theological convictions around us, but our core values we all share.
Yeah, it's like historical orthodoxy with variance on the inside.
Variance on the what matters we share. We're conservative. We have traditional sexual ethic, et cetera, et cetera. We go down the line. Not woke, as we say. And so we started to do that. And it's like, well, what do we do to be creative? So instead of just sitting in front of the cameras and, hey, let me tell you 3 steps to what Calvinism is. It's like, let's make a meme about John Calvin burning Michael Servetus at the stake, and throw it up there and see what happens. And then we throw it up there, and the Calvinists are mad. And then the non-Calvinists are like, well, who's this guy? And then it's like, now we have a discussion going on about who Michael Servetus is, and did John Calvin burn him? Did he not burn him? Maybe he's more innocent than we thought. And it's like, well, take our classes on Calvinism by a Calvinist, and then see why one of us was not a Calvinist. Now we're like, oh, we're learning theology, but we're not really learning theology. And so for us, it just worked. And we do podcasts, funny bits, stuff like that, but hopefully that Barstool model, it's been working for us, and it's kind of fun. It's been a fun endeavor.
I love that you guys, because usually when you see any form of meme or any form of slightly irreverent comedic value, like a Ricky Gervais or something, like someone kind of on the cusp, it's almost like anti-God. But in fact, you guys are able to, it's almost like our world has lost all of its truth tellers.
Yes.
And we're unable to laugh at ourselves. We're unable to laugh at, well, I've got my quirks.
Yeah.
And you guys have gone right at it, but instead of like running from like theology, you're actually running to it.
Yeah, because like I was saying before, we're living in a time where anything that is an attempt to be on or to just be genuine is seen as performance. So it's kind of like, well, how do you get around that? If it looks like I'm performing all the time, people think you have an angle. The performer has to kind of make fun of themselves. Like, yeah, I know I'm performing. I'm in on it though. I get it. I get why you're laughing at me.
Yeah.
I'm performing. And then people are like, oh, he gets it. He gets why we're laughing at him. And then they may let down their guard and let you say what you have to say, but you're kind of making fun of the packaging that the message is coming in. And so the memes kind of make fun of the packaging that Christianity comes in, not Christianity itself.
Yeah, you're not making fun of Jesus.
No, we never
just
touch
the way we kind of dress it up sometimes.
We never touch the sacred. We never make fun of the sacred and what is holy and what as Christians, what other Christians have died and gave their lives for, and what we believe is sacred. But what we do is, it's like, well, we have all these little subcultures in Christianity that kind of mess it all up. Yeah. And I'm part of that. I have my own. I mean, there's days on the meme page where Nathan will drop something like, ouch.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah. Like when they're like, how Pentecostals read it, like scratch out everything but Acts. I'm like, I get it. That's kind of been me at certain points. These people are going to scratch up this person, this person. Like, okay, that's kind of,
totally.
that's kind of. Who would not be a good fit? Instead of saying like who would be a good fit, who's not? Who's going to come in there and go, this ain't me?
I would say anybody over the someone.
Wait, because I'm 41, so I was like,
I was gonna say I'm 39, so I'm like, wait.
Anyone over the age of like 39?
Yeah. Dang it, that's me.
I almost made it.
I would say probably a baby boomer doesn't get it. Baby boomers have seemed to have the biggest struggle with what we're doing, and people that are part of that generation, because they're more serious. They think that the jokes are going to lower our credibility.
I see.
As academics, but it really hasn't. It's actually been able to draw people to say, hey, these guys are actually getting into a space that we haven't yet been able to get into. And it's like, yeah, you haven't been able to get in that space yet because everything you do is an advertisement. Everything you do is to draw people to what you're selling them. And, from a lot of our content really is a value added, adding value to your life without trying to sell you something at the moment. It's just there. It's just content. It's funny to take for what it is. And then over time, maybe you become curious about the product, but we're not trying to perform. So that's understood better by Gen Z, millennials, maybe Gen X a little bit, probably the back end of Gen X.
Yeah.
So I think baby boomers, you may have a hard time with it.
So, so I went to traditional Bible college,
Yep.
and it was literally by the miracle of God that I could afford it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going to the school because I felt like God was like, this is where you're supposed to go. And I remember going there, and they told me, you do not have enough money to come. And I remember crying and prayer walking outside the admin building and going, God, you told me to come here. I just drove up from LA to Seattle to come to school here. And the security guard comes over and goes, hey, what are you doing? Are you a student here? I was like, well, no, but I'm trying to be. And it's like, it's this weird thing. But like God did a miracle, and every year I had just some crazy provision where someone would write me a check, or I had a good job this one summer where I made really good money. I was able to write a check for it. But I go, that's not everyone's story.
Yeah.
And you guys have, essentially eliminated these huge barriers, like 6-figure barriers, and going, hey, if you want, if you want to learn all of this, I'm just pointing at commentaries and books and things like that, we can make that accessible to you without a 6-figure price tag on it. And you guys have these like incredible tiered things. Like, explain how that works, because maybe someone, even a high schooler, might be able to watch and go, dude, I want to learn some of that.
No question. So Theos University, people get a little mixed up because there's Theos University, there's Theos Seminary. They're part of the same family, but they're separate entities. Theos University is like the Netflix of theology, or somebody said more like the PureFlix of theology.
The
PureFlix of theology, okay? We're talking in Christian terms. So you could just, it's the tier is you sign up for a subscription. There's 75, maybe 80 classes now, various topics, anything you can think of, anything from the book of Romans, book of John, Old Testament history, your basic Bible classes, to hot topics, transgenderism, homosexuality, feminism, whatever. You go on, you click it, you can watch the videos. So we've been able to resource churches, pastors, different individuals with this particular product. But there are individuals that want to go deeper. They want more of a challenge. They want either a certificate program, which is a 1-year Bible degree that goes through our 14 most foundational classes that give you the broadest suite. Survey classes, Old Testament, New Testament survey, a spiritual formation class, et cetera, and kind of prepare you to serve inside of your church. So a lot of churches will use this. They don't have a curriculum of their own. They use this for their next step individuals to serve in the church or come on as an elder, be as it may. Then, of course, you have Theos Seminary bachelor's program, which is 126 credit hours. It's a 4-year program. And there are no semesters. You kind of sign up, you go at your own pace. You matriculate through year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. You learn everything. There's no core classes, so you don't have to learn English or biology or algebra, things that, I remember I went to Bible college. My first year was like biology, algebra. I'm like, wait a second, why did I come all the way to Minnesota from Michigan to learn about this? So they're all Bible classes, all core classes by experienced professors who've taught these subjects before. And then we have so in graduating, you get a Bachelor's of Arts in Biblical Studies. Then there's a master's program, which is more advanced. It's not biblical studies, but it's a Master's of Arts in Theological Studies, where you begin to kind of take on the next level of theology, understand who various modern theologians are, what they thought about, because we've inherited a lot of those beliefs from theologians. I mean, some people say, well, it's plain and simple in the Bible, but it's like if you look back to history where your movement came from, and you are following a tradition, and you've inherited some of the ideas of the major players of that tradition, and it's looking at those to kind of see that in doing theology, you're not someone from nowhere doing nothing. You're from somewhere doing something that someone before you has done. So understanding that, kind of moving within that field. And then we have an emphasis on method. Basically, we believe that answers today are kind of are more lessened in value because of ChatGPT, Google. We're living in an age where you can know something and have never learned it. You can just know. People have answers. They have quotes. They have answers. They have these things they've gotten on the internet. But what they don't have is the in-between. How did you get to that? It's kind of like when your teacher in algebra assigns you the odds, and you're like, oh, they're in the back of the book. So you, in 5 minutes, do your algebra homework and turn it in. She's like, no, show me how you got that. That's the answer. Not the answer, but it's the in-between. So a class on method kind of shows you how you've arrived there. So for instance, Spirit baptism. How does a Pentecostal get to Spirit baptism? Well, you have to go back to the tradition. You have to go back to see how we do it. Then you start to realize, well, maybe we don't use Paul to get there. Maybe we use Luke to get there.
Yeah.
We have to use Luke Acts and form in a Luke Acts method to get to Spirit baptism. So, for instance, as a Pentecostal, I would argue that Pauline texts don't necessarily point to Spirit baptism, but Lucan texts strictly
I'm
point
smiling
to it.
because I know that argument. The Lucan pneumatology.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would be methodological, whereas somebody else, so it kind of helps you work that out a little bit to kind of know your space and know your lane. And so that is the master's program. And people say, well, what about accreditation? Well, accreditation takes about 7 years to get. So we've had schools that are helpful to us who are giving us articulation agreements. For instance, Southeastern University, they're like, hey, we'll take all of your credits. So students, they go through Theos Seminary. They get halfway through Theos Seminary. They want to go to Southeastern. They take their credits and accept it in. They've looked at our syllabus and said, hey, this is as rigorous as anything that we've got, so we'll take it. So we're very happy. Currently, at present, we have 254 students.
Wow.
Not in Theos Seminary. In Theos U, we have about 7,000 subscribers. In Theos Seminary, we've got 254 students. There's an academic community that's there. Wow. We have one couple, one person from Australia, one from Canada. They met. They got something going on now. Who knows what it'll turn into? So it's been cool.
That's really, really exciting. Yeah. So if someone wanted to learn more about either of those, what would be the best way for them to?
They could go to theosseminary.com or they could go to theosu.ca. So awesome. TheosU if they want the pure flicks of theology, theosseminary.com if they want to see how they can further their education.
And we'll make sure and throw those links up in the bottom of our chat as well. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for joining us today and for doing this special message of just this special, just interview time to talk about how you, wherever you're at on the planet, as long as you probably have internet connection, you can grow in your Bible, you can learn more about God, you can learn more about theology, and you can learn why, not just what do I believe, but how did I get there? And that would be awesome. Hey, if you have any questions about us here at the House LA, or if you want to check out a service, you can check out thehousela.org. We'll throw that up at the bottom as well. Chris, thank you again for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you back Sunday here at the house. God bless.